Welcome to the Resume Essentials webinar. Let's start with a question. Why is your resume so important? Take a moment to consider this question. Use the pause button in the lower left of your screen if you need additional time. Your resume is important because it's the first item the recruiter will review to determine whether you move forward in the hiring process. It's a key introduction that is used in decision-making throughout the process. As such, it needs to be a snapshot of your professional qualifications and experience and needs to summarize your skills, competencies, and abilities. It's a glimpse of your ability to communicate and needs to be tailored to the role you're applying for. It needs to be compelling and it needs to be concise. Today, we're going to look at ways to improve your resume by exploring key components of an effective resume, identifying typical problem areas in poor resumes, and creating attention-grabbing phrases to highlight your past achievements. A good resume is a self-promotional document that presents you in the best possible light for the purpose of getting you invited to a job interview. Consider this. According to an article in the Kansas City Star, how long does a typical recruiter take to review a resume? Think for a moment about your response. According to the article, recruiters typically spend about 10 seconds reviewing a resume. Most articles quote between 10 and 20 seconds. So your resume needs to be impactful and concise so that the recruiter can quickly learn about your job experience. A good resume is unique to you and markets your skills and qualifications. It should highlight what you have accomplished as well as the skills you possess, and it should showcase how you have prepared for this role and what you can bring to this desired job. A good resume is also customized for your audience. Whether it's cross-divisional or cross-functional, it uses language that your audience will understand. Be careful with acronyms specific to your organization or market segment. To grab a recruiter's attention when you talk about your accomplishments, focus on the impact of your accomplishments in terms of what you made, saved, or achieved. For example, how did you make the company money or make an impact to the organization or client? How have you saved the company or the client money or saved time in a process? Or how have you achieved a significant goal for the company or client? Made, saved, achieved statements use powerful action words such as analyzed, developed, executed, initiated. They use hard numbers. Instead of a vague statement like you improved customer satisfaction, use specific metrics like I improved customer satisfaction 22% to the highest level since 2001. The statement carries weight because of that hard number. The keywords in your made, saved, achieved statements should be up to date with industry-specific jargon and buzzwords. Words like corporate responsibility, citizenship, green initiatives, personal choice dining. These buzzwords show that you are aware of current industry trends. But be cautious of division-specific acronyms. If you're applying for a job in another market segment, take time to translate the acronyms or have a colleague review to ensure someone else would be able to understand. Here are some good made, saved, achieved statements to give you some examples. The first example gives specific information about increasing revenue, making the company money. The second example highlights a particular goal of implementing on-demand dining and gives specific information about patient satisfaction achieved. The third example shows significant time savings in reducing downtime. So now it's your turn. Take a moment to write your own made, saved, achieved statement. Use any example from your career. Be sure to use specific examples, hard numbers, and strong action words, and put it together in a concise way. I'll give you about a minute to develop your statement. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Now that you've had a little practice writing your own made, saved, achieved statements to highlight your accomplishments, let's talk about creating a blueprint for successfully refreshing your resume. First, you have to go in with a plan. In developing your blueprint for success, what is your action plan to revise your resume? How are you going to gather information about the job? How are you going to list out experiences? Where can you find the hard numbers to support your outcomes? Who can help review your resume to provide feedback? Which jobs will you be applying for, and how will you tailor your resume for each job? All of it starts with a plan of how you will set aside time and which activities you will undertake to refresh your resume. As you build your plan, be sure to build in time to investigate the desired skill sets and requirements of your desired position. This may mean connecting with people currently in the role, reviewing current job postings for the role, finding the position profile for the role on Sodexo.net, or reviewing the Sodexo Management Competency Model for the competencies related to the role. Then, take a look at your own experience. Brainstorm and create a list of your accomplishments and your job responsibilities to start preparing your resume. Once you've developed your list of skills and experiences, assess how they relate to those identified for your desired role. Then focus on your key accomplishments. This means taking a look at the breadth of experiences you've had over your career and identifying the ones you will highlight on your resume. Focus on those made, saved, achieved statements that will quickly show the recruiter that your background matches the desired skills for the role. You'll also want to set aside time to incorporate resume best practices. This webinar will identify some best practices for you, but you can also look on Sodexo.net or on the internet for more ideas. Have flexibility to tailor your resume based on the feedback you receive and to the needs of the different positions you apply to. For example, if you are applying to both a sales role and an operations role, you'll want to have two versions of your resume to highlight your talents and accomplishments in each of those areas. Finally, seek feedback. Ask for feedback from someone outside of your current environment to get a diverse perspective and to double check that any acronyms or jargon you've included can be easily understood by others. Now let's talk about some assumptions typically made in creating a resume. It is okay to assume that readers will not understand specific account and market acronyms and terminology. Even if you're a current Sodexo employee, pretend as you're composing your resume that you're applying to a company you have never worked for before. It's also okay to assume that readers will not be aware of all of Sodexo's many accounts. So ensure, if you work for Sodexo, that you list both the name of the client organization and Sodexo in your description. It's also okay to assume that readers will not know what you're capable of, so leverage those MSA statements to help readers know where you've seen success in the past. On the other hand, it's not okay to assume that just because you work for Sodexo, readers will know what you're capable of. Just because you've seen success at your client account does not mean word has traveled throughout the organization to the recruiters or to the hiring manager. Take time to list those accomplishments. It's also not okay to assume that readers will understand the lingo of your specific market or account. Remember to take time to translate acronyms or other market-specific terminology. Finally, you'll want to avoid the assumption that readers will know that the account listed on your resume is a Sodexo account. Make sure the word Sodexo clearly appears in the title or description for clarification. As you're refreshing your resume, be sure to avoid some of these typical blunders gathered from our Sodexo recruiters. First and foremost, our recruiters see exaggerated qualifications. Do not take credit for another's work or oversell the skills you possess. What's reflected on your resume should be unique to you. When you review your resume for updates, don't forget to update your contact information. Also, your resume should not read like a job description. Your resume should be tailored, telling, and concise, with your key accomplishments highlighted with MSA statements. Make sure the objective listed in your resume matches the position you're applying for. If you're applying for an HR or staff role, your objective listed shouldn't be that you want to achieve a high-level operations role. That signals the recruiter that there may not be a good fit between your career goals and the role you're applying for. Ensure you've taken time to check your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Find a detail-oriented colleague or mentor to triple-check your work. One resume blunder is to include hobbies and personal information that are not related in some way to the job or a demonstration of your competencies. Remove any information that is not relevant in assessing your qualifications for the role. Here's an activity to help you spot some resume blunders. Take time to review the resume on your screen and spot the knots. Identify areas where this resume could be improved. I'll give you about a minute to complete this activity. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Here are some knots that our recruitment team spotted. First, always use a professional email address, not something too informal like Sassy Girl. If you need a professional email address, use yahoo.com or gmail.com to create a new one. Second, the actual description of the job duties looks like the candidate just copied and pasted the job description. And even though there's a great achieve statement within the paragraph, it gets lost. Try using bulleted lists to highlight those MSA statements. Here's one more example. How might you make this resume more effective? Think about your response. I'll give you about a minute. If you need more time, press the pause button in the lower left. Now here, the idea is to make this description read more like achievement statements. Instead of just selling company offerings, for instance, the bullet might list the amount, a dollar value or quantity or revenue from the sales. Be specific and use those MSA statements. Here are some more tips for powerful resumes. Keep your resume current. Not only when you switch jobs, but as you achieve accomplishments, go back to your resume periodically to add them. Emphasize accomplishments related to the jobs of interest. Remember, some flexibility in tailoring your resume to the job you're applying for. Try not to leave gaps in your resume. Have a continuous timeline of employment. Provide detail so readers can understand your responsibilities, but don't go overboard. Remember, the recruiter only has 10 to 20 seconds to review your resume. Also, there's no need to indicate reference availability. The recruiter will ask when they need them. Remember to avoid including protected information, such as family, religion, race, or gender. But it is appropriate to include leadership roles outside of work. It's also okay to include any honors or professional affiliations. In terms of the length of your resume, best practice will tell you 1 page is recommended, but our recruiters say that's not necessary. If you're using bulleted lists and the recruiter can get through it in 10 to 20 seconds, it is okay to be onto a second page. It also depends on the length of your career. Keep your resume easy to read. Bullets are much easier to skim than paragraphs. If you've been working for Sodexo for quite a while, you may find that Sodexo's previous spelling with that H is still on your resume. Remember to update it. And finally, check your spelling and grammar. So now, let's take a moment to practice updating your resume. Take a moment to write 1 sentence that introduces a brief overview of your current or most recent position. Remember to include your scope of responsibility and key accomplishments, and follow those made, saved, achieved statement models. Use strong action verbs, words like developed, designed, implemented, managed, and include indicators of success, such as an increase in revenue, a promotion, client and customer satisfaction. I'll give you about a minute to create your sentence. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Take a quick moment to reflect on this exercise. Was it difficult or easy for you? For any challenges you identify, be sure to address them in your action plan at the end of this webinar. Review your sentence that you've created. What does this kind of introductory sentence tell recruiters and hiring managers about your experience? As we wrap up, let's talk about next steps. Create your action plan to critically review and update your resume. Based on your experience in the exercises today, gauge the amount of time you will need to transform your current resume into a concise, targeted resume that highlights your key accomplishments and competencies using the made, saved, achieved model. An important step in your action plan should be to seek feedback from a colleague, supervisor, or mentor, and to make sure your resume is clear, concise, and compelling. If there are other actions regarding your job search or preparing for an interview, you'll also want to include those items. Take some time now to begin creating your action plan. I'll give you about a minute. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Let us leave you with a few resources. First, you can always reach out to your local HR team for questions or more information. Leverage your mentor, whether formal or informal, to learn more about positions within the company and prepare for interviewing and revise your resume. There are a few websites that also provide further information around interviewing and career development. One is the Career Options page. This page contains information on searching for careers at Sodexo, developing your talents, and preparing for promotion. You can find it by searching Career Options on SodexoNet. Displayed on your screen is the Career Connections Job Seeker Tips page. The URL listed in the bottom bullet on the screen will take you to this page, which provides information gathered from Sodexo's recruiters on interview tips, resume tips, and job search tips. That concludes this webinar. If you have further questions, please reach out to your local HR representative.